Well, hello there, and welcome to this edition of Thought for the Week. It's very good to be with you again. When I was with you last week, I was talking about the church at Antioch. It happens to be Paul's home church. Paul and Barnabas were leading brothers in that church. They were prophets and they were teachers, and there were a number of them in this church. But the interesting thing about them is they're so different from one another. Let me read the list as Luke gives it to us. There was Barnabas. Well, he was a Jew that came from Cyprus. There was Simeon called Niger. Presumably that means he was a black man. Lucius of Cyrene. Manaen, who'd been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, so he was an aristocrat for sure. And Saul. Well, now, Saul had an interesting background, as I'm sure you know. He was a Pharisee. He was on the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, or so we believe from biblical reference. And he had been an arch persecutor of Christians, but now, gloriously saved, here we find him in the church at Antioch with this remarkable ministry that he fed into the church there. But the point I want you to see is this. They were so different from one another. See, that's one of the great things about a church, isn't it? We are a pretty motley crew, to be honest. I don't know what group of believers you associate with, but I can guarantee that you're not all the same as each other. Vive la différence. It's good, isn't it, that we have these different characters and different strengths and weaknesses. So together we can really form a united front, but it's a united front based on difference as well as anything else. We have gifts that differ. We have ministries that differ. And that was true of the church in Antioch. But the thing that amazes me about it is that while this group of brothers were together, these leaders in the Antioch church met together to pray, to hear the voice of the Lord. They fasted to make sure that their minds were crystal clear and their spirits were sensitive to know the voice of the Holy Spirit. Something astonishing happened, which must, frankly, have taken the wind out of their sails. Let me read you what Luke tells us. While they were worshipping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I've called them." Now, I don't believe that that is what they might have expected the Lord to say to them. Separate from me Barnabas and Saul. Now, the list of names is interesting because Barnabas is the first mentioned and Saul is the last mentioned. And I often think of them like bookends. You know, you have two at each end, don't you? Each is a bookend and it holds the others together. And I see Saul and Barnabas as being rather like that. They were particularly gifted men. And yet it is those two that the Holy Spirit singles out and says, separate out from me Barnabas and Saul to the work, to the ministry I've called them to. What a shock. But the incredible thing is, those elders and that church were prepared to do exactly what the Holy Spirit said, even though it was at such tremendous cost to the fellowship. It's quite something, isn't it, to be real worshippers of the Lord who are prepared to obey what he says, even though it could seem to be to our own hurt. But the Lord is sovereign, and we are wise if we submit to his leading. Well, be encouraged. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye for now.